Hi, Katie. It's lovely to be here. It's lovely to be here for the concert series. My name's Laurence Grove. I'm Professor of French and Text Image Studies at the University of Glasgow. Most people know me by the name of Billy, which is a bit of a strange one. But send me an email if you want to know why. And I'm also director of the Sterling Maxwell Centre, which is the Centre for the Study of Text Image Cultures, because one of the big things about Glasgow, one of the world specialities we have, is a library that contains the world's best collection of picture books. And some of these picture books have inspired the music that you'll be hearing later.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. So Emblems is a name that's given to some of these books. And I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about what an emblem book actually is.
Yeah. An emblem, I mean, here for example, is as if by magic. It's a bit like a modern day meme. So it's where you get a picture and you put a text with it and you're wondering what the picture has got to do with the text. And then when you put the two together, it comes up with a message which can be instructive, it can make you laugh, it can be a general view on life, it can be satirical. And these emblem books would, as the name suggests, be collections of these 16th or 17th century memes. Mm-hmm. People would buy them, they'd have them lying around on their coffee table, they'd dip into them, and we'd all have our own favourites. So, and the subjects could include the one I just showed you was the ivy, or it could be the role of woman in 16th century society, or it could be a squirrel using its tail to zoom across a lake. Or it could be the fact that we're all going to die, or it could be the fact that because we're all going to die, you should have fun. Or it could be the way of what's the afterlife going to be. It could be for propaganda. It could be for political or religious propaganda. So all of the stuff that the internet's doing today, they were doing with the technology of back then, which was printing.
And who was consuming these books? Who was buying them and reading them?
Generally, we have to sort of assume that if you could buy a book, you were fairly well off. So it wasn't the people working out in the fields. Mm-hmm. But often emblems would also feature on stained glass windows, painted on walls. So almost a link to Banksy or the current graffiti in Ashton Lane supporting the NHS. So it would be visual symbols that would be everywhere. But the books themselves would probably be bought and consumed by the better off, the well-off in society.
Yeah, well, this particular book, these particular pieces we're going to hear by a guy called Michael Maier, who perhaps you could tell us a bit about. But what I saw in a description on the internet where he said it was the first example of a sort of mixed media book, because obviously it includes the images, it includes text, and it has music written down, obviously, because they couldn't record it back then. But I thought that was quite an interesting point. And anyway, yeah, can you tell us a little bit about this particular book?
It's an unusual one. It's linked within a more general category of alchemy. So it's the idea of trying to find greater truths beyond esoteric truths. It's very Harry Potterish. Mm-hmm. It's sort of, if we put these secret symbols together, what will we come up with? So Maier came from a literary background. The main book that he's known for is called Atalanta Fugianes, of which the copy in Glasgow is absolutely lovely because somebody's coloured it in. So you can see how people were really engaging with this. And again, it would show all different walks of lives, people doing different things, but with this overall aim of trying to work out implicitly the meaning of life. So what that means is you've got some really weird stuff, which is why I think that appeals to people.
Yeah, and I think if people are interested in having a look, we'll put a link below this video to there's a blog on the University Library website where you can have a look at the book, including the coloured in book actually, but also they do actually also have a little area where you can actually print out the copies yourself and colour them in, which is quite nice. So feel free to do that. But the pieces that we're singing are number 20 and 21. I'll probably put some pictures of these up as we listen to them so you'll be able to see them, but they are 21 in particular. I think has quite a striking image which really does look very Harry Potter. It's got a big kind of Horcrux, like, I think that's the right thing from Harry Potter, symbol, and it's got a man with a pair of compasses, and it really does kind of conjure up images of well, alchemy and magic and
Yeah.
and the Philosopher's Stone and things like that.
Yeah. And this is from the same time as, well, the same sort of culture that people like Albrecht Dürer, you probably know the Melancholia image, which we've got in the Hunterian as well, which has got all these different symbols coming together, and it's got hidden skulls in it, and it's got notions of the passage of time. Often the passage of time is really important, which I think links in with the type of music. We're talking about music which sets to time. And again, mixing of different pictures, symbols, mathematics to give it this scientific edge, but at the same time, the fact that there is something that we can't quite know beyond. So,
and I think from a musical point of view, I suppose it's interesting that it presumably implies that the audience had some level of music literacy themselves, and could potentially, in wherever they were, perhaps in their household, or in, I don't know, maybe it was in student settings, perhaps at university, they were able to read this music and put together these pieces, which I have to say themselves are slightly odd. So they're all based. There's a kind of cantus firmus, and then there's two sort of imitative kind of, well, actually strict canon lines above it, and sometimes it does lead to some slightly odd corners in the music. Though the two we're listening to are quite successful, actually.
Which is exactly what the book is like. It's about being surprised. It's about having openness. And finding out things beyond. One reference to compare it with might be Douglas Adams' A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, where the meaning of everything is contained in Bach. And there is this idea in Michael Maier that if we have certain artistic functions that transcend our daily being, then we can find out what life is all about. So I don't know if any of the concert goers tonight will be able to find the meaning of life, or maybe just have fun, but an alternative.
Hopefully one or the other.
Or even both, why not?
The Latin motet cycle Prophetiae Sibyllarum by Lassus sets 13 short texts with a curious mixture of pagan, humanist, and Christian sentiments. By the 16th century, the Sibyl prophetesses of ancient Greece had long been absorbed into the Christian canon. Lassus sets a poem about each Sibyl, prefacing the cycle with the Carmina Chromatica, or chromatic song, which we sing now. As you will hear, Lassus employed an unusually chromatic style of writing in this piece, and throughout the cycle. Musicologists, including Marjorie A. Roth, have suggested a link between this transformational harmony and alchemy. Roth notes that ancient Greek music theory recognized the chromatic inflection of pitch as a transformative process, likening it to the purifying physical and ethical effects attributed to the alchemical transformation of metals.
Given how frequently the anonymous poem A Light Quake Dirge has been set for choir, it is surprising that it is so rarely performed. Indeed, it is undoubtedly better known to audiences through recordings by folk artists such as Steel Eisban, The Young Tradition and Alistair Roberts. The song tells of the soul's travel from earth to purgatory, like being an old word for corpse. The poem was first collected by John Aubrey in 1686, but it is thought to date from the 15th century. This unusual setting for double choir is by Arthur Worrell, and composer now best remembered as the author of the carol A Merry Christmas.